on Facebook. We're live on Rumble. Happy Monday, my friends. It's good to see you. We have Glenn Beck joining us live in just a moment because we're going to ask him the question in the wake of Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, being smacked by his wife as they exited their presidential jet. This was caught on video by The Sun. We're going to show you that video if you haven't already seen it. And we're going to do a little body language analysis of the president of France. But the big question, of course, on everyone's mind is Brigitte Macron a man? This, I think, adds a little more fuel to those rumors. We're going to ask Glenn his opinion on it in just a moment. Also, a new poll finds that the majority of Americans, this includes Democrats and Republicans, so not just people on the right, now believe that Joe Biden was not physically or mentally fit for office, at the very least in his final year as president. And not only is this striking, this comes in the wake of Joe Biden announcing his prostate cancer diagnosis, that he not only has prostate cancer, that it has metastasized to his bones. It also sends us a very chilling message about the continued power of the mainstream media. I think a lot of us in the new media tend to believe that we have broken the mainstream media because we are such a powerful alternative. But this might be a little bit of a wake-up call for us to realize that actually the mainstream media still has significant power. So what do we do about it? We're going to ask Glenn the answer to that question as well. Also, Democrats, this one's funny. Democrats are funding a new study about why young men hate the left, why young men hate the Democrats. And the contrast to the amount of money that they're spending on this question juxtaposed with the attacks that Democrats have leveraged against young men in the past 5 years is humorous, because they said it's now a right-wing extremist thing to like red meat and to like to work out and to like attractive women. Yeah, I wonder why young men hate the left then. We're going to talk about all of that and more today on The Liz Wheeler Show. Today's episode is sponsored by All Family Pharmacy. You and I both know that the cost of healthcare in America is completely out of control. And prescription drugs, they are often way more expensive here in the United States than almost any other country, which is patently unfair. Americans have been paying the highest drug prices in the world for far too long. Thankfully, that's finally starting to change. President Trump just signed a new executive order to bring those prices down, and it is a step in the right direction, but it's going to take time. While the system catches up, All Family Pharmacy is stepping up. They're not waiting around for policy to kick in. They are taking action to benefit you now. From now until June 30th, you can get 20% off all medications, no insurance required. We're talking about real access to medicines like antibiotics, ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, your daily maintenance meds, and more. They have over 200 options, and they ship very quickly with a doctor's prescription included in your shipment. Go to allfamilypharmacy.com/Liz to check them out. If you use my code Liz20, you can claim your 20% off. Get the meds you need, keep them on hand, take control of your own health. Don't let big pharma and big government get in your way. Medical freedom is the way that it should be. Go to allfamilypharmacy.com/Liz. Use code Liz20 for 20% off. All right. Emmanuel Macron was caught on video. This was published by The Sun. This video has gone wildly viral. As he was exiting his presidential jet, he was, you can call it slapped, you can call it smacked, you can call it shoved in the face by his wife. It appeared that they believed they were off camera, and yet they were not. You should see Emmanuel Macron's face when he realized that the international press caught this moment of what I would dub to be domestic violence. We're going to show you that video in just a second. But first, we're going to bring Glenn Beck, host of the Glenn Beck program, onto the show. Glenn,
Hi,
good to
Liz.
see you. Thanks for joining me.
You bet. Thank you. Save some time for me because I got back from Turin and I brought a gift for you.
You did?
I did.
What did you?
Do you want it now?
Is it a shroud?
It's not the shroud. No, it's not the shroud. I got you a rosary from the Shroud of Turin.
Did you really?
Yes, I did. So I'll send it to
word.
you. I'll send it to
Oh
you.
my word! I'm so touched.
Yeah. Well, my wife and I were
Thank you.
there, and we were talking about the Catholics that we know, and I said, I have to get a rosary for Liz, and so we did.
Oh my word! I'm going to tear
Yeah.
up. That's
Yeah.
so kind of you to think of me.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's been actually a New Year's resolution of mine for the past like 2 or 3 years to say a daily rosary. So
Good. Well, you'll
that's
have one from Turin now.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Okay, I want to watch this video with you of Emmanuel Macron because I mean I've watched it about a dozen times already just because I think it could be classified as an international incident. But let's play this on the screen. This is Emmanuel Macron exiting the presidential jet, getting, I would call it assaulted by his wife, but
Uh-huh.
I'll get your take in a moment. Let's go ahead and play this video, Spence. All right, here we go.
Oh gosh.
Pushed by his wife. And he
And then,
waves
hi,
to the
everybody.
press. All right, he's getting off the jet here moments later. Or no, there it is again, replay.
Oh my
Goodness.
gosh.
Glenn, what do you make of this?
I think, I think it's so funny when people are like, it's a man. No, I think she's just a hideous human being. I mean, she was 39 and he was 14 when she started coming on to him. She had 2 children at 39 years old. She was a teacher and she just thought he was brilliant. She started coming on to him. They started having a relationship by the time he was 15. 16, the parents find out and they're like, whoa, wait, I thought you were having a relationship with a teacher's daughter. And when the dad said to her, back off my son, he's 15 or 16 years old. She was 41 then. And she said, well, I cannot promise anything. Our love is so deep. I mean, why isn't she in jail? She's clearly somebody who has abused this boy forever. I mean, one way or another, that is mental abuse. And anybody who has gone through that with a 41-year-old and you're 16, there's something mentally missing from you. I don't understand the French, and I didn't go into this understanding the French.
Well, it's predatory behavior, and I have to say, I don't often juxtapose, oh, if this were a man, if this were a woman, the standards would be different. But imagine for a second, I think this is actually an apropos time to make this comparison. If a 41-year-old man began a sexual relationship with a 16-year-old girl, do you think it would have just been brushed under the rug like this?
No, not even in France, it wouldn't have been. I mean, it's really disgusting. And so I think this guy has set himself up for, being her whatever for a very long time. And, anybody who thinks that was, I'm trying to imagine what my wife and I would have to be doing to where she would grab me by the face and shove me. Now, I could see that actually happening if we really were joking around, but it wouldn't have come as a surprise. And I would have been smiling and laughing all the way through it. You know what I mean? If I'm like, oh, no, who's about it? And she could have grabbed my face and pushed me away, I'd be laughing when she did it. He was not laughing. That was not a fun shove.
No, I agree. I confess I like to watch the body language analysis videos that people post on X where they slow it down. We have one that we can show just as B-roll here. But some of the things to note is, first of all, he wasn't aware that the door was open. He didn't see that.
Right.
And when he did, he had a shocked look. If you were just fooling around with your wife, you'd probably actually just joke it off and be like, sorry, I should have kept it in the bedroom or whatever.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have that shocked look. And then he like held on to the side, like anchoring himself and touched his face, like very uncomfortable gestures. But the thing that really got me is when they were walking down the stairs, he offered her his arm, which is tradition for heads of state to do to their wives. And she rejected him publicly, knowing that the cameras were there. That's not what you do after you're just fooling around.
Did you see when he got down to the bottom of the stairs? His one hand was clenched in white knuckles. I mean, he was white knuckling.
Yes. So what do you read into here? I mean, I don't think we know enough about this woman. People ask me frequently, actually, after Candace Owens's whole series about Brigitte Macron, she contends that Brigitte Macron's a man. People ask me all the time if I think that Brigitte Macron is a man. And my answer is, I don't know. I have no idea. I do know what we know for a fact is that this person is a predator, man or woman. Is a predator. I personally think that's more important than if Brigitte Macron is a man.
Well, because we know
woman.
That's true.
Right.
I mean, that's bad enough. We know that is absolutely true. We know that from the family. We know that from the school. We know that from the facts. The man thing, it's so amazing that we live in such a time where if you would have said, I think the president of France is married to a man, everybody would have laughed. Everybody, including Macron, he would have been like, no, okay, everybody would have laughed. Now, you have a good portion of the world going, I don't know. I've seen stranger things happen recently. I mean, we're living in bizarro times.
Yeah. I mean, I'm at the place now, and I'm not even a conspiracy theorist. I actually tend to try to reject conspiracy theories, and I'm looking at this person like, does kind of walk like a man, huh? I don't I don't know, an awfully bow-legged stance.
Yeah, well,
Regardless of predator, but I don't think we know enough about this person to understand, okay, if this person, regardless male or female, is a predator, what kind of hold does, I'm just gonna call her she, and I'm not buying into the trans stuff. I'm just not getting into that.
mm,
What kind of hold does she have on Macron? Like, what does this mean actually for Macron as head of state and
oh,
as a powerful figure in the EU and globally?
you didn't need to ask that because she shoved him with, both hands in his face. She was 41 and he was
Mm,
16. She was 39 and he was 14 when she first fell in love with him. I mean, this is a predator. This is
yeah.
somebody who has had control of him over his whole life. I mean, it's it's something that should be studied, quite honestly, because it's not a healthy relationship. What it means for the French, I don't know. They stay weird. I mean, I don't know. They're the only people that make Austin seem normal.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's really
As a
firing the big
Texan,
guns.
that's hard to say. That is
I
true.
would I would say not only is Brigitte Macron a predator, she's a pervert. That's 14 years old. That's
Yes.
a perverted thing to do.
Yes.
Okay, let me ask you about this new poll. And I have to tell you, this one caught me a little bit off guard because I feel like, as someone who works in alternative media, as someone who is part of the new media, I often feel, I guess, pride in the sense that we broke the mainstream media, right? It no longer has this stranglehold on the minds of the American people. There are a lot of people, most Americans don't trust the mainstream media. And so I like to think like, cool, we broke the mainstream media. Then I see polls like this and I say, okay, well, you got a little high on your horse there, Liz, because this new poll shows that the majority of Americans believe that Joe Biden was not mentally or physically capable of running the country, at least in its final year of office. This is I think it's a Napolitan news service. 58% of Americans, that means both Republicans and Democrats, believe that Joe Biden was not fit to run the country. And I think to myself, okay, this is being presented as a positive thing that people are finally seeing the light. But what it really says to me is that 6 months ago, 12 months ago, people hadn't seen the light, even though the evidence that Joe Biden was senile, a doddering old man, has been there for the past 5 years. And but for the mainstream media, people like Jake Tapper, they wouldn't have believed this. And my question to you is my cynical, discouraged take on this wrong? Are we actually underestimating the power that the mainstream media still has in our country?
No, I think we are overestimating our power on America. I don't think we have done a good enough job in policing ourselves, on being a fully credible entity. And I mean
Mm,
that the problem is there's three networks and three cable companies. You know what I mean? There are millions of podcasts. And so you kind of lump them all together in some ways. They're all equal because they're all competing against each other. And I don't think we haven't figured out how to police ourselves, and how to debunk ourselves and our own
mm,
side. You know what I mean? Um,
yeah.
and so people don't know. Do they believe them? No. But have they fully accepted that we're holding the truth? No. No.
So what do we do about that? Because I think your point is not only a good point, it's a very touchy point among the right because for two reasons. One, when Trump came into power in 2015, 2016, he brought with him this idea that loyalty is basically the highest virtue. And it's
Yes.
understandable given his career in business, and it's certainly understandable given how quickly people turn on him in the Oval Office. But it's extended into the media, the right wing media, in a way that I would argue is not healthy because it has reduced our courage to criticize each other or even to engage with each other about ideas on which we have different opinions. So it's a really touchy subject to be like, oh, this person's wrong about XYZ. It becomes this like feud in the right
Yes.
wing. How do we
I think we have
get out of that?
conversations with that, with each other when we disagree. I mean, that's what has to happen instead of, you know, saying I'm going to debunk you or I'm going to prove that you're wrong. Instead, why don't we have a conversation and let reason rule? Because I get hammered all the time from all sides now because I'm not loyal to Trump or I'm too loyal to Trump, and all I'm doing is trying to give the man the benefit of the doubt more than 100 days, and say, let's see this play out. I'm against tariffs. I've told him that over and over and over again. I'm against tariffs. But he is trying something that nobody else has tried before. And we're at an end game scenario. And the words of Ronald Reagan come to my mind, where he said, when we get to this point, there will be no good options. And I think we're
Mhm.
there. And, Trump is looking at an option he thinks is good, but I think is a no good option.
Mm.
And something has to be done. And while I don't agree with that one, I don't see anyone else stepping to the plate with anything game changing enough to actually start the engine again and disconnect from the old world that we have been connected, that's dragging us down. So, I think we should speak our mind, have an open and frank conversation. I mean, Donald Trump and I spoke for privately half an hour just on tariffs.
Mm.
And I mean, he asked really tough questions. He listened, asked follow up questions. I asked him questions. He allowed follow up questions. I mean, it was a healthy exchange. And in the end, he was honest. He was like, you know what, Glenn, I'm just going to do them because I think they're right. So I'm going to do them. And I respect that. So
Do you feel any more convinced that tariffs are going to work after talking to him?
no, no, but
Really?
no, but he believes it. And
Yeah.
I said at the beginning, this wasn't a surprise to anybody. He didn't like get elected and then suddenly say, "Oh, by the way, I'm going to do tariffs." He
Right.
ran on that. Everybody knew that it's my favorite word, tariffs. So nobody was surprised by it. He's earned the right. He is the president to do the things that he sees fit, and I see his I was just with him a couple of weeks ago, and I spoke to him about this. That I said, correct me if I'm wrong. I see this as more of a master plan that encompasses everything, and we're just looking and say, I disagree with this, but this has to be part of this, so they all have to come together. And that's what he's doing.
Yeah.
Is it going to work? I don't know. I don't know, but I pray that it does.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, when Trump rolled these out, the reaction from a lot of people on the right even was that, oh, Trump pulled this out of his hat. What the heck? He's being reckless with tariffs. And I was like, well, wait a second. Before we even get to whether they're going to work or not, remember that he has literally been talking about this exact tactic and honing it for 40 years. He's been talking about tariffs since he was in long before he was in public or in public office when he was just a businessman. So this is hardly something new for him. But I think you're correct in the sense that his economic plan it's 5 points, I believe, 5 pillars of his economic plan. Tariffs are only one of them, and it's a tool to try to make the playing field even. I personally think it's going to work. I think tariffs are awesome. I could be wrong. I hope I'm not wrong. I think it is going to work. But going back to the
It
media,
might.
I mean, we'll see. It's worked
Yeah,
somewhat already.
hope you're right.
Um, we'll see. We'll see. Going
Mhm.
back to the media thing, though, I want to ask two things. One, if you can think of one topic among the right that is, I don't know, the most contentious or one of the most contentious topics, what conversation and between whom, meaning topic and people that disagree, would you like to see the most that you feel would be the most healing for dialogue on the right?
I let me say it's not necessarily the one that I think would jump to people's heads first, but I would say third term for Donald Trump. That's
What?
against. Here's why. It's against the Constitution. Okay,
Right.
we passed an
We
amendment.
can't do that.
We can't do that. And there are serious people who are saying, "Well, no, that's three in a row." No, no, it's not. It's three terms. You can't do three terms. And I would like to have that conversation because that gets into the loyalty thing. You're
Yeah.
just not loyal to Donald Trump. Who else is going to do it? Who else is going to, well, wait. I don't know who else is going to do it, but we don't violate our own principles. And so I think it would be a great conversation to have with reasonable people that really disagree with each other. So we could teach each other and others how to argue constitutional principles. My answer to that is you want him to run for a third term. I'm all for it if you change the Constitution. I don't want it changed, but if you can get it changed the proper way, that's what the Constitution allows you to do. But we don't find exceptions here and there. We don't say, yes, but it's a comma in the Second Amendment. No, we know what they meant. We know what this means. No third term. That doesn't make me anti-Trump. I mean, if he's doing what I think he's doing and it all works, boy, who is going to replace him? I'd hate to see after 4 years who is going to, but not him. Not him, unless you change the Constitution.
Do you think that the people making that case are actually being serious? Because the people that I've seen, and this is maybe I've seen mostly Trump making this case, but when I've seen Trump, I believe on 2 separate occasions. One, he was talking to a gaggle outside of Air Force One, and once he was sitting in the Oval Office. I think he was sitting in the Oval Office. It seemed to me that he was just trolling the media.
Oh, he's trolling. He's absolutely trolling. But there are people that are actually trying to make that case.
Okay, well, I mean, that seems a little nutty to me.
Yeah, well, I mean, the First Lady of France is a man. When did anything surprise you? Jeez.
That's a far shot. Well, listen, I define loyalty actually differently anyway. To me, loyalty is not being a yes man. The most loyal thing you can do, I mean, just think about what friendship is. The most loyal thing a friend does is tell you the truth, even when they think that you're going to react poorly to the truth, even if they think it's going to be painful or hurt. And that's how I operate regarding Trump and anyone in the Trump administration. When I criticize them, it's like above constructive criticism. I am trying to sharpen their administration to be the most effective possible, which you would think is, at least how I define it, the height of loyalty. Wanting someone to succeed.
Friendship. You're right on that. And I know personally, he likes that.
Yes.
He likes that.
Yes,
and he's never shied away from any. I mean, I was just with him on a very controversial thing that I was not up to speed on, and he stopped. We were walking in the hallway, and he stopped, and he's like, "Hey, what do you think about X, Y, and Z?" And I said, "I could just shoot from the hip, but I don't feel comfortable saying shooting from the hip for the president of the United States. Yeah. So I don't know, Mr. President. I can look into it if you really want my opinion." But he is constantly challenging himself, he likes to be challenged, but he likes to be challenged with respect. He is the president of the United States.
Well, it's actually, he's often criticized for having a big ego, but I think one of the overlooked benefits of having a big ego is sometimes you're not insecure. So meaning you don't mind when someone criticizes an idea because you already think highly of yourself. So, okay, great. All right, let me ask you. There's an issue that I have a double standard. My viewpoint is absolutely a double standard, and I can sit here and very upfrontly say, yes, I have a different standard for Democrats than I do for Republicans, and
good for you.
I am unashamed to say that. You can tell me if this is immoral of me, but to launch into this, Spence, if we could bring up the video of Jake Tapper. Jake Tapper, as you know, is on this book tour. He wrote a book pretending to blow the whistle on the mainstream media cover-up of Biden's mental decline, even though he was a big part of that cover up. Now he's just trying to make a buck off of you.
Yep.
Well, he then goes on CNN. This is like the second week of his book tour, and says he makes the allegation that President Trump is not being transparent about his medical records. And this is, we have this video, don't we, Spence? If we do, let's go ahead and roll this. You can just push it up here on the screen when.
Well, I just think in general, not Trump specific, but in general, I think that the press corps, and I'm certainly including myself, needs to worry less about politeness when it comes to these health issues, and needs to be even more aggressive when it comes to demanding transparency on health issues when it comes to the president. President Trump, while he appears healthy, he has not been transparent about his health records. And I think that that's something that the American people have a right to.
Okay. Okay. Tell me what you think here, because my take on this is there's just no excusing it. It's an abject double standard for Biden to cover up his cancer, to cover up his mental decline. I don't know if he has Parkinson's. A lot of doctors looking at his behavior say that he shows all the physical signs, the mental signs, the cognitive signs of Parkinson's. I deeply care if he knew he had cancer when he was running for president, during his presidency, if he had mental decline. That is, I mean, in my opinion, that's not only subverting the will of the people, it's dangerous and existential threat to our country. Juxtapose that, Glenn, with the fact that I do not care if President Trump is not being transparent about, I think in his last medical records, people looked at his cholesterol and were like, wait a second, a guy of that stature is probably not going to have cholesterol numbers like that low. I do not care if he fudged his cholesterol numbers, and I deeply care if Biden had hid his cancer. Is this an improper stance for me to have?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, if you're asking me to morally judge you, condemned. Yeah, I think it is, but I understand it.
Why?
And
Explain it to
here's, well, let me explain why you feel it's okay.
Okay.
I think. One of my favorite, a phrase that came from Thomas Jefferson that absolutely changed my life, and I butcher it, but let me horribly butcher and paraphrase. He was writing a letter to his nephew, Peter Carr, who he was trying to raise and say, these are the things you need to learn in mathematics and in physics, and you need to learn this about, ethics. And he got to religion, and in it, he wrote, when it comes to religion, above all things, fix reason firmly in her seat. For if there be a God, he must surely rather honest questioning over blindfolded fear. That's the most dangerous thing he could have said at his time, the most politically incorrect. You remember Thomas Paine, because they thought he was an atheist, which he wasn't. We have the letter to prove it. Thought he was an atheist. He was buried alone in a pauper's grave. No one attended his funeral. So you don't say things like question God back then, but he did. And he said, because if there be a God, he must surely rather honest questioning over blindfolded fear. Not somebody who's like, you're not God. Oh, if you're God, well, why don't you save yourself? Okay. That's not honest questioning. What the press does is not honest questioning. You'll notice he said, we have to get more aggressive and leave some politeness out. No, you don't. No, you don't. You just need to demand the truth. I'm sorry, sir, but this we demand to know because we have a right to it. And you don't change that from president to president. You act the same way for every president. That's what the press is supposed to do. But they don't do that. And so you feel that way. I don't care about his cholesterol because they don't really care either. If they find anything wrong with him, that he's an inch shorter than he claims he is, or an inch, taller than Barron, and he's been saying Barron is giant compared to me. If they find out anything, they will make it into a scandal. There's a difference between the scandal of what happened with Joe Biden, because we all saw it. And don't talk to me about the coming forth on the medical records. We didn't need medical records. You did not need the medical records. You needed to be honest, and none of them were.
I agree with the fundamental premise that you're using, that we should always pursue the truth and that we shouldn't allow truth to be compromised. That, I think you're correct. And maybe the only way to build out from there is to demand Trump's correct cholesterol number. That may be true. I'll think about that.
Let me just say this. I don't think his cholesterol number is that big of a deal. I mean, I'm not going to lose any sleep, and I wouldn't have lost any sleep if they said we're not going to give you Joe Biden's cholesterol number.
Right.
I would not.
I really don't care. Yeah, I don't care either.
Really don't.
Well, here's the thing. I think that we have made a mistake in our culture, and I blame libertarians for this, and I feel fine blaming them because I used to be very libertarian-minded until I realized the problem with that is the libertarian mindset on the right has assigned moral equivalency to different positions. And they've done so mistakenly because our country says that every person is entitled to due process under the law, right? That's equivalency to everyone. But that doesn't apply when you're talking about a concept, or you're talking about a motivation, you're talking about a policy, or a politician who's enacting that. So the reason I care that Biden covered up his cancer, listen, I actually feel bad for presidents if they have to disclose private health information. I don't like to do that. It's an invasion of privacy. I'm sure it feels nasty. There are certain health conditions that don't actually impact what you're doing in your day-to-day life, yet it might signal weakness to your international or domestic enemies. I get that. I wouldn't want to either. But the fact that they hid that in order to enact such grave harm, I would even say evil on us, that's why that bothers me. And why, if Trump, and like I said, I'm just using this as a hypothetical because there were a lot of people that were like, a guy that weighs that much isn't going to have cholesterol like that. Well, maybe he does. Who knows? But he's not covering that up for any kind of nefarious purpose, in which case, like, I really don't care.
So, did you see I'm outing myself as somebody who likes The Crown, but I do. I like the series The Crown. Did you ever watch The Crown?
No, I'm entirely delinquent on watching television and movies, unfortunately.
Okay. Well, I watched The Crown.
I know the premise of the show.
Yeah. So the first season is the abdication, and then Elizabeth's father, he gets cancer, and he has lung cancer, bad, and he's dying. No one tells him because he needs to be the king. And if he's worried about this, he needs to be the king. And I wonder if they were so brazen that they didn't even tell him. I wonder if he even knew
Joe
he had
Biden,
cancer.
you mean?
Yeah.
Well, he said it in July of 2022, though. He said, I and many others like me have cancer. And then he cited a statistic about Delaware having a higher cancer rate because of, I forget what he referenced, some environmental toxin or something. So that would be
maybe
something, but I don't know.
Maybe.
Okay,
the thing on Joe Biden and his health is because it leads to who was running the White House.
Yeah.
Who was actually president? While you're telling me you care about democracy and the republic, you've got what they called themselves the Politburo running the White House. That's not constitutional. That's not who we didn't vote for that. We didn't vote. I don't even know who those people are.
Yeah.
We still don't know who those people are. And they were making the decisions. That's why this matters. If Trump dies from a heart attack, I'm not going to blame his cholesterol levels and say, because nobody could stop him from eating McDonald's anyway. Okay.
Not even RFK.
Yeah, not even RFK. He's going to eat McDonald's. And we all know that. Look at it. Look at the way he's eating. Would anybody be surprised if he dropped dead of a heart attack? No, I wouldn't. But Joe Biden, if he had a serious heart attack or a serious stroke, and then the White House started covering and making sure he wasn't seen because he's now slurring his speech because he had a severe stroke, and then they're saying, no, you're just making that up. And then the right-wing media started covering that up. I'd have a problem with that too.
Yeah.
His cholesterol levels would suddenly be important because what it led to. But on its face, I don't care about his cholesterol levels.
Do you think the auto pen signature, it's like the machine that forges the signature of the president, do you think that the use of that auto pen machine by the Biden administration, we don't know who, by the way, had the authority within the Biden administration on staff to do this. Do you think that the documents that that the machine signed on his behalf, do you think that those are legally binding if he was unaware that they were signed?
I don't think they are. I think towards the end of his administration, I don't think they are. The 6,000 people that he signed for release, I can guarantee you he doesn't know who any of those people are. I can guarantee you.
What should happen then?
The people that did that should go to jail. And those should be revoked. The auto pen, remember, the first person to use the auto pen for signing any kind of bill was Barack Obama. He was in Hawaii, and they couldn't wait for it to be delivered overnight to Hawaii. And so they needed to sign it, and he gave authorization over the phone as Barack Obama. You have the right to use the auto pen to sign this document. That's entirely different than what they were doing.
Do you think it is?
What?
Do you think that's different? Like, you think that's still okay to use the auto pen if it's like if the author?
I don't like it, but that was the standard. Okay, I don't like that. I think they should all be signed by the president. You can wait a day unless it's war, and then you know what? Use it. Find an old timey, fax machine. You can, send it to me on the interwebs, and we'll print it out here and sign it. So I don't like that, but that was the standard we were working under. What happened was we didn't go from, yes, this is Barack Obama, you have the authorization to sign that in my name on the auto pen, to just sign 6,000 of these. He had no idea. I can guarantee you he had no idea. He was on with, was it Jake Tapper? He was on somebody's show where he said, I didn't sign that. Yes, you did, Mr. President. You did that today. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. He didn't know what he was doing. No.
Yeah. Yeah, it's actually chilling. I mean, again, going back to Jake Tapper thing, I watching Jake Tapper go on this media tour this past week and a half, again, has just instilled in me almost this sting of, wow, we overestimated our influence. As awesome as it is that we have broken, and we have, the stranglehold of the mainstream media, they still have incredible power because they're the ones that propagated this. The Biden administration and the people around Biden, in my opinion, would never have been able to get away with this because there were so many snafus and errors and problems that were visible to us from a distance. The only reason that they got away with this was because of people like Jake Tapper.
Yes, absolutely. Jake can say whatever he wants, but he didn't get a pass from me. I mean, oh, gee, now all of a sudden you're mea culpa, mea culpa, mea culpa. No, because your mistake wasn't just on this, Jake. Your mistake is so deep on the cover up. All of the mainstream media has covered for the Democrats and the Democratic Party and the president over and over and over again, and done their bidding to make sure you smear anybody who says, no, DEI is real. ESG is actually happening. They smeared all those people. So I don't. This is why I won't read his book. I'll listen to people report on it, but I won't give him a dime. I won't give him a dime.
Same. And one of the things that struck me when he was on Megyn Kelly's show, he said that he called Laura Trump and apologized. He said this very begrudgingly. He did not apologize to the American people. When you are truly repentant and you truly are seeking redemption, usually you are in a big rush to apologize because you want to convey your contrition. I have not seen that from Jake Tapper. All I've seen is his willingness to take a humiliating beating from Megyn Kelly because he's trying to sell you his books, which is grotesque on many levels. All right, I want to ask you about this is actually the funniest thing on the show today, is an enormous amount of money, $20 million, is being spent by the Democrats to study why young men hate them. We'll get to that in just a second, but I want to talk quickly about a partnership that I have with a ministry called Preborn. You guys know that I'm pro-life. I love babies, plan to have as many of them as I can. When a mother with an unplanned pregnancy is deciding about the future of her unborn child, it's an overwhelming moment. Society has told her this isn't an unborn child, it's just a clump of cells. Sometimes those closest to her, the father of her child, even her own mother, her friends are telling her to abort that baby, that it's going to get in the way of her career ambitions. It's going to wreck her relationship with the baby's father. She is under humongous societal pressure to end the life of that child. But Preborn's whole ministry is to love these women and empower them so that they can choose life for their baby. And we call this an eternal moment, and I want to explain to you why. A young woman named Briella was ready to take the abortion pill. The abortion pill is now responsible for the majority of abortions, 60, sometimes over 70% of abortions in our country. You can get it very easily. You can get it online. You don't have to see a doctor. You take the pill, it aborts your baby. Sorry to be graphic here, but you pass that baby on the floor of the bathroom. It's grotesque. But Briella's abortion pill never arrived in her mailbox. We don't know why. And so she decided to go to a pregnancy clinic instead. And at that clinic, she received a free ultrasound provided by Preborn. And it was at that moment that she had her eternal moment. Not only did her baby wave to her on that ultrasound screen, she realized that this was the baby boy she prayed for. This month of May, can you help us bring life to both babies and mothers by sponsoring these ultrasounds? An ultrasound doubles a baby's chance at life, doubles it. When a mom sees her baby on the ultrasound screen, the majority of the time, she will choose life for that child. The goal of the Liz Wheeler Show is to sponsor 400 ultrasounds this month, and we're going to keep you updated on how many babies that you are saving, that we're saving together. One ultrasound is only $28. 5 ultrasounds are $140. Every penny goes towards loving mothers and babies well. My challenge for you today is, will you join us? Simply dial pound 250, say the keyword baby. That's pound 250, keyword baby, or visit preborn.com/Liz. That's preborn.com/Liz. Okay. $20 million is the amount of cash that we're talking. $20 million, I think, is hard for a lot of us to conceptualize, but this is what Democrats are planning to spend to study why young male voters flocked to Donald Trump and don't like Democrats. Glenn, for $5, can you tell the Democrats why young men hate them?
No, I'd need to study that for a while.
You need the 20 million.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Now, is it just men, or does it also get a little stronger with white young men? I'm wondering. I don't know. I haven't studied it. I have no idea. But I can't think of a reason. You have spent the last 12, 15 years telling white boy, you've spent longer than that, because it all started longer than that when we started saying, women, you can do what a man can do. Well, no, you can't. No, you can't. And and men, you can't do what women can do. That's that there. Now it's all balanced and it's true. So they started with that. And then they started saying, well, we've got to concentrate on girls in school, which meant to the detriment of boys. Then they started demasculating boys. Boys are just different. They are. And then they got very, very clear. If you are a boy and you want a rough house, or you want to play, cowboys and Indians and guns and war, there's something deeply wrong with you. And you're supposed to be equally turned on by a guy as you are by a woman. And there's no shame if you want to dress up. And, that is a sexy, sexy man woman. And don't tell me any differently, because there's something wrong with you if you don't think that's a sexy, sexy man woman. It's insane. They've done everything they can to drive men, including denying reality on what's coming. Women, their natural instinct is to nurse and to nurture. Okay. Men's natural primitive state is to defend. Right. So they have told us to, bring a merce, and don't use that to hit somebody over the head. If they're going to rape your wife and child, you have your merce. That's just a bad, evil man, and you should just run away the other direction. I mean, we are defenders. And what's happening, the reason why I think we are seeing we're seeing such a split between men and women, is the world is in trouble. And so women naturally go to, we just got to take care of people. We got to hold them. We got to listen to them. That's their natural state. But the men are being denied because they say, wait a minute, this is wrong. That this is creating real problems are coming our way on the horizon, and you're denying them. And I'm standing here at the gate and I'm calling out the warning, and you are telling me that I'm the problem, and I'm pointing to the problem right here. And I'm telling you, as a man who is naturally built to defend and to call out warnings, you're telling me not to do any of that. Yeah. It goes against our natural instinct. This is the problem with progressivism, with Marxism, everything else. It just takes the actual natural man and dismisses him, where God says the natural man is an enemy of God. So what do? You recognize those tendencies in you that are not godlike, and you work on those to get better. But he doesn't say, deny that part of you, deny your drive for sex. No, control your drive for sex. There's ways to take natural man and mold him as an individual to be a higher man. But you cannot get rid of the basic things that are in all of us for a reason. It's why we exist still as a species. Because God gave men and women separate things that are very important. And if you deny them, the species dies out. That I give you for $5.
The Democrats should give you $20 million. I mean, there's only so many times that you can tell someone that they are bad and evil, and that Democrats hate them. Democrats say, we hate you, before the people aren't going to want to be part of your party. I mean, they were telling young men working out is some radical extreme right-wing thing. Liking red meat is some radical extreme right-wing thing. Liking hot women is supposed to be some radical extreme right-wing thing. Well, yeah, why don't you try to sell the right a little harder to these young men?
Yeah, I mean,
You'll be absolutely successful. Glenn, I know you have to go. Thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate it. It was great to talk to you today.
Thank you.
All right, guys. This weekend marked the 5-year anniversary of the death of George Floyd, and it's astounding to me that the left is still portraying George Floyd as a martyr. I had some advice for President Trump on what he should do to commemorate the 5-year anniversary of the death of George Floyd, and I will tell you what that advice is in just a moment. But first of all, we talked about Joe Biden a lot on this show. And Joe Biden, thank goodness, is not president of the United States anymore. Most people think he wasn't president. This includes Democrats, even the last year in office. But that doesn't change the reality that the impacts of Joe Biden's policies, or the policies signed by Joe Biden's auto pen, are negatively impacting you and me, especially when it comes to our monetary financial situation, our financial security. What I'm talking about, of course, is inflation. The US dollar is still facing unprecedented inflation. We hope that's going to change because Trump is president, but it takes time. The reason that we have to remain focused on this, despite the fact that Trump is president, is because other Democrat politicians here at home and abroad are trying to use our money to take control of us. They're using our money as a way to manipulate us. Look no further than the digital dollar. It's a Chinese Communist Party social credit score system. They want to be able to control you using your money. That is why it has never been more important than to take control over your own wealth. Do not let your life savings, your bank accounts, become a casualty of failing banks or currency wars or evil, manipulative, controlling politicians. Now is the time to call the only precious metal dealer I trust, American Heart for Gold. They will show you how to protect your savings and your retirement accounts by diversifying your wealth portfolio with physical gold and silver. They're a wonderful company. They stand with us because we are committed to bringing you the truth. Tell them I sent you. They will give you up to $15,000 of free silver on your first order. Call them now. You can click the link in the description of this episode or call 866-996-5172. That's 866-996-5172. Or if you prefer text messaging, you can text Liz to 998899. Listen, my husband and I diversified a portion of our wealth portfolio. It's now in physical precious metals, and it gives me incredible peace of mind to know that politicians who have openly and repeatedly articulated that they hate me and want to control me cannot use my money to control me. Call 866-996-5172 or text Liz to 998899. Okay, this past weekend marked 5 years since the death of George Floyd. Who among us doesn't remember the summer of rage in 2020 as COVID was raging? The lockdowns were forced upon us. The lockdowns and masking, the social distancing didn't apply to the Black Lives Matter rioters that took to our streets. CNN told us as flames blazed in the background that the protests were fiery, but mostly peaceful, ignoring the fact that the stores being looted, especially in Minneapolis, were owned by Black people. Nonetheless, the left told us that this was some sort of racial justice because the white police officer, Derek Chauvin, had killed the Black victim, George Floyd, simply because the police officer was white and the victim was Black. Well, 5 years later, that was never true. It wasn't true the day of. It wasn't true 1 year later, 2, 3, 4 years later, and it is not true today, 5 years after the death of George Floyd. George Floyd was not killed because of racism. George Floyd went into respiratory distress because he was a fentanyl addict and had deadly levels of fentanyl combined with other drugs in his system at the time of his death. George Floyd went into respiratory distress after police arrested him for robbing a gas station, a convenience store. George Floyd had been yelling, "I can't breathe," long before Derek Chauvin ever pinned him to the ground. There is no evidence, and there never was, that Derek Chauvin was a racist, let alone that Derek Chauvin killed George Floyd, let alone that Derek Chauvin killed George Floyd because Derek Chauvin was racist. It was never true. The Black Lives Matter movement propagated this lie, trying to make white people feel guilty for being white, trying to make white people feel that they are inherently racist simply because of the color of their skin, fomenting racial divide in our nation that was begun by Barack Obama in 2015 after the death of Trayvon Martin and Michael Brown and Ferguson. The Black Lives Matter movement supported the riots in the streets. The Black Lives Matter movement was founded by women who described themselves. This is not my inference. These are the words of the founders of the Black Lives Matter movement as trained Marxists. That's the words of Patrisse Cullors and Alicia Garza, the founders of the movement. The Black Lives Matter movement wanted to undermine the public's confidence in our police forces. They wanted the American people to think that our system, which we thought of as being a system of equality, was in fact based on racism, that it's a white supremacist system. They want to tear down the rule of law because they ultimately want to tear down our entire country. They hate the United States. And for a time, it seemed like they might be successful. They were successful in waging not only violence on our streets, but a public opinion, character assassination against Derek Chauvin that actually got him convicted of murder and sentenced to prison. And so my advice to President Trump on the 5th anniversary of the death of George Floyd is not only reject the Black Lives Matter movement, not only use every tool in your resource, the entire Department of Justice, to crack down on any Antifa or Black Lives Matter agitators who commit even the smallest crime. Send a message that this is not appropriate. But the act of justice that President Trump should take on the 5-year anniversary of the death of George Floyd is to pardon Derek Chauvin, who was wrongfully convicted of murder simply because he's a white man. If we don't demand justice, not only will injustice continue, those who propagated it and perpetrated it will become bolder, and the Overton window will move closer and closer to you and your families. But we're in a position with the Trump administration to demand something better for our country. So, President Trump, I respectfully request pardon Derek Chauvin. Do not allow the Black Lives Matter movement to convict a man of a crime he did not commit simply because the color of his skin and because trained Marxists hate him. All right, guys, we have quite a show for you tomorrow. I'm really excited for you to share. I'm going to wait until tomorrow, but to share the guest that we have on the show tomorrow. I don't think you're going to be disappointed. Make sure you set your alarms for 1 p.m. Eastern. We are going to be going live on YouTube, on X. We are going to be going live on Facebook and Rumble. And it's going to be quite a show. So you can either subscribe on these channels, go to youtube.com/Liz Wheeler, go to x.com/Liz_Wheeler, subscribe and set the notification tab, but also get out your cell phone, click on that alarm app and set your alarm for 12:55 so that you are seated and ready for the show at 1 p.m. because I promise you will not be disappointed. Also, this Memorial Day, I hope you already saw it. If you haven't, I highly recommend that you take your families to see a story about grit, redemption, and good old-fashioned family values. It's in theaters now. This is not something I can often say, oh, there's a good movie in theaters that you should take your family to see. Usually, the opposite is true. Hollywood is generally trying to indoctrinate your children in evil. Not this time. Trust me, you don't want to miss this. From Angel Studios, the team behind The King of Kings, Homestead, and Sound of Freedom, comes The Last Rodeo. It's an action-packed story of a retired rodeo legend who straps back in for one last ride, risking it all to save his grandson. He is the oldest rider to enter the arena ever. The movie is about healing broken bonds, facing the past, and proving that real courage means fighting for the people you love. It is raw, it's heartfelt, and it might just leave you tearing up under that cowboy hat. Theaters are selling out fast, so hurry up and order your tickets now. Go to angel.com/Liz. Grab your seats for The Last Rodeo. It's in theaters now, angel.com/Liz. All right, I want to also update you on what we are doing here at Blaze TV. As you know, we are more than just a news network. We are more than just, political entertainment. We are more than just content creators. We are the hub of the conservative movement. You and I have a very unique role to play in this Trump administration, a role that the American people up until now have never been called to play in any presidential administration. And that role is to take an active part in raising your voice in thought leadership on a day-to-day basis in this administration. Contrast that with before. In previous administrations, we would raise our voices, every couple months when there was a big bill that was in front of Congress or a particular judicial nominee that needed our support. Today, every hour, your voice is needed to help the Trump administration fight back against the swamp, to abolish the deep state, to make sure that we are not just saying no to these policies, but we are actively in a positive way presenting policy that helps form what we want our society to be. So instead of just being the party of no, we are actively drawing the future for our children. And that's what we're doing here. When you subscribe to Blaze TV, you are not just subscribing to our awesome content, although hopefully that's a benefit. You are the movement. You are sustaining those of us who are sitting here helping drive not only the Trump administration's decisions, but helping them execute on their policy in the most effective way possible. So if you can join us, go to blazetv.com/Liz. You can get $20 off if you use my promo code Liz. That's like 26 cents a day to be at the forefront of this movement that we are winning. Trump talks about winning and liking to win. We are winning. But of course, while we've won some battles, the war is not over. And I often say that our enemies become the most vicious when they see their impending defeat. So join us, blazetv.com/Liz. That's blazetv.com/Liz. Use my promo code Liz for $20 off. Thank you for watching today. Thank you for listening. I'm Liz Wheeler. This is The Liz Wheeler Show.